Do you think a guy should lead the household, and what does that look like in application?
Yeah, I certainly do. But I think I think a lot of people hear that and say, okay, he's going to make every decision. He's going to tell me what to do. I'm going to be super subservient. Um, and a lot of women hear that and are like, no, it's like, I hate that. I don't want to be told what to do. But for me, I look at that as like, I married a guy who I massively respect. Like, I genuinely think he is the smartest person in the room. I genuinely think that he is kind and empathetic and a good friend. He's a great leader. He's incredibly compassionate. He has great instincts. And he's somebody that, like, I feel like when I met him and we started dating, it was like a weight taken off of me because I had all of these walls up. I was managing all of these different things. I was like, I don't know who to trust. What am I doing here? Like, my family's is it, whatever. I met him and it was like, oh my God, I can like relax because I'm dating somebody that I trust, who I know has my best interests at heart. And so I naturally, it's less of a, like, I'm calculating, being like, I need Alex to make this decision because he's going to lead us in this way. And more so, like, you're really great at making these decisions and it takes a weight off of me and you enjoy this. Like, where, I'm buying a car. When I bought my car last year, he handled the entire thing. He basically told me what car we were going to get. He told me we were going to get a Tesla because it made sense for my commute. And I was terrible at filling up my 4Runner with gas. I would get home and I would have like 4 miles. And he would be like, okay, well, I'm not letting you go out to the East Nashville, Shell station at 11 p.m. in the dark. So then I have to go do this, whatever. And he was like, so this is the car we're going to get. It's great. I found a great price. We're going to go do it. And I was like, great. I am so happy that I don't have to think about this. And I was kind of resentful at the time because I loved my 4Runner.
That's a cool car.
Loved it. It was my dream car, and I had it for like 2 years, and now I love my Tesla. And I didn't think
What
I was going to
Tesla
love
did
it.
you get?
I have a Tesla Y.
Okay.
Yeah, Model Y. But I didn't think I was going to like it. And I was like, I've always had like trucks and a gas guzzler, and this is what I want. We were moving to a farm, and why am I getting a Tesla? I was like, you drive like 35 minutes to your studio every day. This is dumb, and you don't fill up your car with gas, and gas prices are so high. This makes sense. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I trusted him. I didn't really push back other than being like, I'm going to miss my car. I love my car now. Everything he said was right. He's very logistical. He understands the situation from a bird's eye view. And it's so wonderful. And this is just like being in a great relationship in general. And I don't know if you feel this too, where it's like you have somebody who is like, gets you outside of your head when you can't and knows you so well and is like, no, this actually is what you need. And I trust him implicitly. But I also do the same thing for him in a different way where I'm not negotiating what car he's going to buy and telling him what car he should do. But when it comes to like interpersonal relationships or things that he's doing in his work and how he, navigates some situation with a client, it's definitely like the male-female roles of like, I'm just, more emotional. That's where I like excel in. Then he comes to me and we work through that. And at the end of the day, we're both adults. We can make whatever decision we want, but we trust each other in that regard and we know our strengths. And so that's kind of how I think it is in application of, there are certainly things that he excels in. And so I let him lead in that regard. And I trust him enough to let him lead. I think that and I think you have to find the right person for you because it's not like there where I would go out with guys and Alex was the first one that I looked at and I was like, I would trust you to be in the driver's seat of my life. If I was in a life or death situation, if I needed you to make a decision, you are somebody that I feel like would make a great decision for me.
Was that immediate? You felt like that?
Yeah. And that was just like a kind of an emotional feeling of like stability. And then I got to know him more and I was like, oh yes, like in practice, I feel this. And there would be other people that I would go out with where even like on the first date, I was like, I don't think it was just like a vibe thing of, I don't think we're in sync. I think that, just knowing my parents' marriage, there are times when I'd be like, I think I am way too dominant for you and I might really like you and you're really sweet and you're really funny, but I can already tell that even me as a people pleaser, I might walk all over you. And that's not what I saw that in practice. I saw it not working. And so I think it's really important to know yourself. I think that's kind of a conversation that is missed, especially on like the conservative right, where they'll say like, just get married. It's going to save the West, get married, save society, whatever it is. We have to find the right person. Like, don't just tell a whole crowd of high schoolers to just go out and find somebody and get married. You have to find the right person for you. It has to be somebody that you trust, that you feel like will always be advocating for you to be your best, who is supporting you, who is holding you to a high standard. If it is, if you are a woman and you're looking for a guy, who is somebody that you would trust in you're marrying somebody, you're going to have this guy's kids. you are gonna be in your most vulnerable situations with him. Make sure that's somebody that you trust. And I think in order to know who you can trust, what you're looking for, you have to know yourself. And so some people, and I feel like I was, lucky and I was in a unique situation where I feel like I knew myself at a very young age, probably because a lot of the stuff that I went through as a kid, I had to grow up really quickly. Some people just know, but I knew kind of what I wanted my life to look like from a bird's eye view. I knew my values. I knew what had not, I think a big blessing was that I knew what didn't work in my parents' marriage. And so I was able to, at a younger age than a lot of people, say, okay, I think this is going to work. And obviously, we're 1 year in. But it's funny, a lot of people say that, like, the first year of marriage is the hardest and you're figuring everything out in the communication. It's like, last year was actually very difficult for us.
Who says that? I've not
Really,
found
it's
that
just
at
such
all.
a commonplace thing. I'll even see
Really?
it on, like, friends' social media of, like, oh, it's so hard. Or, like, people who are, like, older couples, maybe it's just they're, like, I don't know, projecting or whatever. They're like, oh, just wait, that first year.
Maybe it only gets better then.
I know, maybe that could be that's the perspective shift.
Yeah.
But
I guess that could be different if you've like never lived together.
Yeah.
Or you're just like moving in, like you get married and like the next week you have a house and like
Yeah, for
now
sure.
you merge everything and maybe that's it. I don't know.
that could be, I don't know. But it's like, even with, Alex and I, we were joking about this. We technically like lived together, but we didn't. Like, I bought a house and he had a house. And we knew that we wanted to get married and knew we wanted to get married within the next year. And he had a great opportunity to rent his house. And then it like lined up with when I was going to Budapest to shoot the Pendragon cycle for Daily Wire. So I was gone for 4 months. So we like overlapped in a home for like 2 weeks. Then he spent like a month and a half with me out in Budapest. But we didn't actually like live together basically until we got married. Because then we had bought our farm and we were moving around. But it was like, we didn't actually spend a ton of time cohabitating, which neither of us really wanted, actually. Both of us were like, we don't want to move in together. And not because we didn't want to, not even because we're like morally against it, but it just felt like neither of us wanted to be in a situation where it became, I think there's a danger in cohabitating just for the sake of getting to know somebody if you're not sure that that's who you want to be with, because I've seen it go awry where it's like, okay, well, now our lives are so entangled and we can't unwind them and we've been living together, so I guess we're basically married and whatever, and there's just like low commitment, but now your lives are so entwined, and that both of us just independently were very against that. But we felt confident enough of, like, we were talking about, like, yeah, we're gonna get married in 2024. That's what it's gonna be. And I kind of like knew through friends that he was in the process of buying a ring. And I was like, oh, okay, then yeah, go ahead and rent your house. And I'm going to be leaving to go to Hungary for 4 or 5 months anyway.
Yeah.
So it was a very unique situation. But yeah, it's weird hearing that. And I think it probably is a lot of people just having to, I think learning somebody's communication style is just difficult. And thankfully for us, it wasn't something that, was like we were butting heads. It was just kind of, even still, we're like, okay, like I'll learn new things about him every week, basically, but they aren't hard or bad.
With the 8-year age gap, did you notice any like differences between you two, or like cultural references that would say that he
cultural
just
references for sure
that he wouldn't know?
Cultural references, but also most of that was amplified by the fact that he was raised having TV and went to like a brick and mortar high school, went to an SEC school, had an iPhone, whatever it was. And I had no television growing up. Like, I was a homeschooled nerd, horse girl. Like, it's so funny. So he is the age was never an issue because I think what's more important than age is being at the same stage of life. I think that's also another thing people should really think about, of like, even if you are both 22 years old, you could have a guy that is super successful and has his own business and is, creating a real, stake for himself in the world. And you have a girl that's like still, I don't know, partying at her sorority in college and is not like ready to take life as seriously as he is, or vice versa. And I think, they always say like women mature more quickly than men. I've seen it be both ways, but of, me at 21 or 22, I was never going to be compatible with another like 22-year-old in Nashville who was like going to Belmont. Like, the majority of the guys I would meet who would be around my age. So I think being at the same stage of life and being ready for the next things, I think, is also important to understand about yourself and your potential partner, significant other. Anyway, so that was never really an issue, but I always laugh about the fact that he had a very like conventional childhood, and he ended up at an SEC school in a fraternity, was like a lax bro, and he ended up marrying a homeschooled horse girl theater kid. And if you had told him that was who he was going to be like in love with and married to in high school, he'd be like, "You are absolutely like hell no, that is insane." And so I think those are probably that caused more of the kind of cultural differences. Of there were just like internet meme references that I didn't get, but I probably wouldn't have gotten them with somebody my own age either because I wasn't online. So. But that hasn't, like, it's basically just been humorous rather than creating an issue. But it was also funny because he thought that I was much older than I was, and I thought he was much younger because he doesn't really look like he's, 31. And I thought that he was, like, 25, and he thought that I was 25. And it was, like, on our 4th date or something, we'd, like, both... I remember it being, like, something's, like, weird. Like, he said something. I don't think that's accurate. I think it was, like, because he went to the same high school as my brothers. Yeah. And I had, like, he had said something about the year he'd graduated, and I was, like... that doesn't seem right. And I literally like went into his wallet and I looked at his birthday and I was like, oh, wait, hold on.
You went into his wallet?
Oh, yeah. But I've never gone through his phone.
Secretly?
Yeah, he had like gone upstairs to grab something, but I was so confused because I was like, am I really missing something? And I felt like after going on like 4 or 5 dates, I couldn't just be like, his how? Are you?
Okay, is there an age where if you saw on his driver's license, you would say like that's 45. Too old?
Yeah, if he was like 35, then I probably would have been like,
that's the cutoff.
That would have been, and maybe somewhere in between, but he was, 28 when we started dating. Yeah. I think we were technically like 7 years. But again, we were on like such similar wavelengths at the same like stage of life, so it didn't really...
Okay, but what if he was 45?
Oh, that would have been like, no. Weird.
Even if everything was like totally
I
good.
think I just couldn't. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's like, I thought you were 40. That's
I know. Then I would
my
have been like, oh gosh, yeah, exactly. But no, I think that would have been.
How did you confront that when he came back to the table?
We never really did. He more so talked to me about it because, okay, so I went on Tim Pool. I've never told this story. I went on Tim Pool, and Tim Pool was at Daily Wire, and we were talking about something, and they were like, wait, how old are you? And I said, I think I said I'm 21. Apparently Alex was driving and almost crashed his car because he thought I was like 25 or 26. He was like, wait, I had like no idea. And so but I don't even think he joked about it later on, but we never had like a confrontation, like conversation about it. I think he like talked to his mom and a couple of friends, and I also like talked to a couple of friends where it was like, and then we like talked about it a couple of months later, I think, where we were like, we both thought we were at different ages. And it's just something that we've laughed about.